Hi, everybody. Well, I should start the way I always do. Welcome to Art Talk Tuesday. My name is Jackie Gortzman, and I'm with Gortzman's Art Supplies here in Toronto. Each Tuesday at about 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are live on Instagram to chat about art materials, what's new and happening in our industry. We sometimes have guests who are manufacturers, suppliers, and some of the most interesting people in the arts. It's a great way for all of us to connect and get to know the people who make our industry so interesting and amazing. You can watch previous IGTV videos through Instagram and also on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram, sign up for email blasts, and it keeps you up to date with our talks and events. I can't wait to chat with our guest today, Alina Gallo, who is the owner and manufacturer of Gallo Watercolors from Assisi, Italy. I'm going to wave in advance because I always forget to do this, and I want to thank you all very much for joining in today. Again, my name is Jackie G, as most of you will know me, and I'm with Gortzman's Art Supplies. I want to tell you a little bit about our guest before we get started. I know she's waiting to join. And there are, so many questions that we have. We do have a limited time with Alina, so if we can't get to your questions, we will do a post and tell you the answers to your questions and anything else that we find interesting during our chat today. So I've got my questions for Alina, of course, and I want to tell you just a little bit about her. Her company was started about 15 years ago. She had a passion, she did a lot of traveling, and she wanted to create a better paint that I believe, well, you know what, she'll probably want to tell you all about it, because for me to read her bio is not going to be the same as for her to tell you all about it, of course. But I will tell you about the product. It's 100% handmade watercolor paints made from premium pigments, mulled by hand on a glass slab with a special gum, Arabic, rosemary, and honey binder, and poured into pans. They are done in layers multiple times over the course of 2 to 3 weeks. This intensive pouring and drying process creates a highly pigmented and luminous paint that activates almost immediately when wet. It's a great cross-cultural dialogue between the ancient art of paint making and contemporary watercolor. Their team of contemporary artists are all trained following a modern variation on the historic paint making workshop model. And each of their staff members starts as an apprentice and then, through years of practice and knowledge, become masters of the craft. They have worked to create stable, light-fast, and non-toxic recipes designed to mimic classical colors such as vermilion, carmine, and verduram, which I still can't pronounce properly, even though I've been practicing, that have historically been made using toxic or unstable compounds. All the colors in the range are therefore entirely free from mercury, lead, arsenic, cobalt, and cadmium, and are environmentally friendly. I'm sure we have a lot of questions, and there's so much that we want to know. I have to tell you, I am so excited to be having and representing and having this product in our store and online to everyone. I would like to welcome Alina to the program, and I hope you all enjoy our chat. And we'll be connecting very momentarily. It is about 6 hours ahead in Italy, so we'll be joining in a second.
Hi there. Hey, everyone. Thank you for that great introduction. I just thought I would say a quick hello from our street since we are in sunny Italy, and just to get the mood of where we are. I'm turning around the camera so we can walk into our shop.
Sure, great.
So here we are in Assisi, and here we go. Just put on an Instagram live in progress. So it's not often that we give a peek into our shop with Instagram live. So here we are. As Jackie was mentioning, we are making our handmade paints from raw pigments, and we're inspired by historic materials. Like this is earth from Morocco. These are oak gall used for making ink historically. And so with the presentation in our brick and mortar shop, we really like to let people see the raw materials and share with them the history of these colors, and the magic of turning them into paint and the process of turning them into paint. So here's some gum arabic lumps from Senegal that we use to transform into our medium. And of course, all of our palettes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
There we are. So yeah, we have these artisan made, of course, drawers that hold our half bands. And we're on a beautiful little pedestrian street in Assisi, Italy right now.
Lovely. I want to be there.
We want you to come. Although
Definitely.
you might want to wait. You might want to wait a month or two because it's about 100 degrees today. So I'm just going to pop this on the tripod and we can chat.
Sure, that's great.
There we are.
There we are. So so thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting us. Yeah.
I know this is their first live, and although I have done it before, I'm always nervous. So don't worry, we'll both get through it.
Well, it's really fun. I mean, one thing is to speak to people in person, but obviously, you know, to join people that you're not exactly sure where they are in the world is both a thrill and a little odd.
Yeah, well, I know we've got people, I can tell just from what I'm seeing on the screen, there are people joining us from all over.
Great.
So I'm going to wave, and maybe Alina, you'll wave, and we'll just say
hey,
hi
everyone.
to everyone.
Nice
so
to see you here.
we won't have time to do this during the chat. We did send you a list of questions, so we'll talk about it, and we'll just talk about anything else that comes up that you want to tell everyone about. We're very excited here in Toronto to be stocking your product. We've had such great response to it, and it's just really exciting to have someone who is always so passionate, and that's what I love, someone who's so passionate about what they do and takes such great care and interest in the manufacturing of the paint.
Thank you so much. And we love being represented by family shops and you know, locally owned and operated. So it's a thrill for us to be now working with you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted to ask, and I guess that will also help to give a bit of a bio. People may have questions about you.
Yeah,
what inspired you?
Can you manage the door, please?
Sorry.
No, sorry.
We
put the sign up, but people still want to come in.
No, that's okay. I know what it's like. What inspired you to create your own line of paints?
Well, we are a paint made by artists for artists. So first and foremost, I was an artist making my own paints and studying the history of medieval manuscript painting. And I've been making my paints as an artist for a very long time. And I was inspired through this research process of medieval manuscript painting. I was inspired by the vibrancy and purity of the colors that I was seeing, especially in person in archives at the Metropolitan and at the Topkapi Museum in Istanbul, and seeing these manuscripts in person, not just in books, having access to those original paintings really was like looking at pure color, which was a little bit different than what I was used to painting with student grade artist watercolors and things like that. And I was just amazed at the color coming off of the page on this gum Arabic water-based paint. And so I started studying in Italy and also in the Middle East with master paint makers to learn these recipes and techniques of how to reproduce those historical colors and those historical recipes that are so pure and packed with pigment. And so it really started off from there. And then Gallo Colors was something that was born as a project that my husband and I built sort of very organically. We made like 300 palettes to start, and the response was overwhelming, and we continue to be so thankful and inspired by the people who really built Gallo Colors with us through Instagram and online, because through their support and encouragement and requests, and yeah, we really kind of exploded over the first years and continue to make new products and new paints, and are always inspired by the people who have been with us from the beginning and who are joining us now. We were also looking to create and connect people to these historic materials in a contemporary world, and in a safe way as well. So that means that we didn't want to, as Jackie was mentioning, we didn't want to use lead or mercury recreating vermilion, the historical color, but we wanted to bring those historic colors back to life in a safe way. I also, as an artist, as a painter, was having kind of skin sensitivity with cobalt and cadmium. And so I was looking at what pigments are available, innovative new pigments can we bring to people that can replace those colors that were, as a painter, giving me irritation, and I didn't really want to work with them, but at the same time, I didn't really know where to go. So that's when we began to really build a collection of pyrrole reds instead of cadmium reds, and look for the best contemporary innovative pigments that are very light, fast, transparent, and have all the qualities you would look for in those seemingly irreplaceable colors on the artist palette, and bring those to the forefront in our classic and more vibrant signature series palettes. So those are our two inspirations, are these historical materials and reconnecting people to those historical materials, and also spotlighting these innovative new contemporary pigments, and also very unusual pigments that, as an artisan production, small batch artisan production, we can bring, like meteorite or Yinmin blue, or these more difficult to source pigments. Since we are working in small batches, we can kind of turn on a dime, and if we see an interesting pigment, we can bring it into production quite quickly and produce it. So for us as makers and as creators, that's really inspiring to like see something exciting, find a way to source it, a new color, a new pigment, a special red from Iceland or something like that, and be able to share it quite quickly, like a microbrewery or something like that. Right. That's part of the advantage of this scale. So, and yeah, the other inspiration for our Gallo Colors was also to train a new generation of artisans and makers, paint makers, in the historic apprenticeship model of a paint maker studio. So we're growing a wonderful group of young artisans who have now, some of them been with us for many years, who are then training incoming artisans and are becoming true masters of their craft.
Wow.
And so bringing that lineage into a living form still is also part of what's really exciting about our company, I think, which includes also collaboration with other artisans, Italian artisans, like our marble paper maker, who's a 5th generation artisan, Tintoretto, who's making innovative, there it is, yeah. So these special relationships, our ceramic artists who makes ceramics for watercolor painting, they're all artisans working in traditions, and I feel like our synergy together really elevates everybody's craft.
Wow, I have so many questions that aren't even on the list that I want to ask you, and I actually, one that came up was, what was the first set that you created then? Because you had this idea. Which one was the first one?
The very first one was actually the classic 12. So, and the Earth and the natural 1. So there were 2 12-color palettes that were accompanied by 2 6-color palettes, which would be like the Earth 6-color palette and the essential 6-color palette, and then the classic 12-color palette and the natural 12-color palette. And the classic palette was really like a split primary. So you have a warm and a cool yellow, warm and a cool red, and a warm and a cool blue to give you that range that you're looking for in a basic set. And then highlighting the Italian earth, so the raw sienna, the burnt sienna, and a neutral color. So it was just, what you're really looking for in a versatile 12-color set. And then the Natural 1 series was inspired by Roman fresco painting and this connection to the Italian earth and the Mediterranean earth, and these natural paints made from plant, mineral, and earth. And those were really, that was really the birth of our company, were those two palettes. Yeah.
So the set that I was intrigued by, and we actually brought it in, and it's actually all sold, was the Sinopia set.
Yeah.
How did that one come about?
Yeah, this is quite a recent palette, and it's actually like a return for us to our roots, actually, because we've made quite a lot of, now we have 36 natural colors, and we have the signature series that was something that developed spinning off of the classic series, our own twists on some of these more classic palettes. And the Sinopia was really like a return to those original painting and drawing colors, those original colors that you use for monochromatic studies or building up value studies or basic architectural studies. And I have to say, it was really refreshing to start working with those colors again. This is the palette, I think I have it right here. These are the Sinopia colors. And so, yeah, they're really like the raw sienna, the bird sienna, all the Mediterranean earths that are just so pure in their own qualities, and they make perfect palette. We've seen a lot of people using it actually for street sketching, like as they're traveling in Europe. We see them using this palette a lot, not just for doing drawing studies. I kind of imagined it as a drawing palette that would be like for preparatory studies, or a little bit looser sketches that maybe you feel free because the colors are not so complicated to really like make a harmonic drawing relatively easily. But I see a lot of people painting like urban sketching with this palette as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great. Well, it certainly inspired me.
Great.
You were mentioning also before that you were trying to recreate the colors that, well, a lot of them were toxic or toxic pigments that were being used, and you're recreating it using more modern pigment. How difficult has that been?
Actually, that's a great question. I would say in our most recent natural palette that has a malachite hue, an azurite hue, and a cinnabar hue, those were some of actually the most difficult colors that we were able to create as hues, because the original color is so beautiful and so pure. Creating a hue was actually quite a challenge to do justice, like I give it that name. It took quite a lot of experimentation. What we thought might take a month of experimentation with recipes and things like that took more like 6 months. And so we decided on using these contemporary Japanese preparation pigments as a base. They're mineral bases to these three colors. And so it's sodalite, amazonite, and agate that are the base of these three colors, so that we maintain that kind of mineral kind of flow and texture to the color. And then we're giving it some contemporary synthetic and also natural pigments to those colors to tweak it in the right hue direction. But these Japanese pigments are pretty special because there's a preparation that's traditional there, that they, based on the grind of the pigment and the precise particle size, is divided into multiple numbers. So like you would have one mineral, say tourmaline, and that tourmaline would have 6 different particle sizes, and each particle size produces a different tonality. And since the particle sizes are so identical in shape and size, they give off the same vibration or frequency color tone. And so it's a particularly pure color tone, not necessarily vibrant because they're mineral colors, but it's a very pure tonality. It's very decisive about what color it is. Whereas you have other earth pigments that are beautiful for their variegated qualities, like a red earth that we have from Iceland. It looks both like a plum ochre and also red ochre and also a brown ochre. So it has its own thing, but that's like almost 3 colors. But instead, these Japanese pigments have a particular purity in their particle size, that give off their own quality. Yeah.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. How do you pick the colors that you want to put into each palette?
Like we were saying, in the first palettes that we made, the classic and the natural, there was sort of a vision behind it. There was an inspiration behind the first natural palette that was the Roman frescoes, and the classic palette, we were trying to create a a palette with versatility in only 12 colors. And so those were really the beginnings of where we started. And then from there, every palette has its own project. So we have an Alina palette that's based on miniature painting traditions. We have a mixing palette that is an even more versatile palette after making over 100 colors. These are the 12 colors that now we would say is actually our very most versatile 12 color palette, kind of all around. And then other palettes are inspired by special colors. Like when Yin Min Blue first came to our attention and we started making it, we said, oh wow, we really need, with lapis and Yin Min, we can make a blue palette. And so we usually grab onto an idea or a need and then work our color choices around there. Often it has to do with the harmonics of the palette itself, and the versatility. So we want something that really mixes well together. The colors themselves will work well together in every palette, and that there's a range of versatility so that there's a good representation of the primary colors and the neutrals and the convenience greens or purples.
It certainly takes a lot of care and thought to put them together.
Well, it's really a creative process, and it's, like the ideas come. And so, yeah, it's a constant evolution of things. One thing leads to another. For example, the signature series really spun off of, well, we want to make a beautiful 24 color palette. And so instead of creating a palette that maybe people already have in the 24 colors that they already, may have in their watercolor collections, why don't we focus on some, more unusual single pigment tones and our custom blends that are just ours. And so you get the kind of range you would want with the signature 24 of a more classic or traditional palette, but at the same time, you're getting colors that you don't have already in your collection. Yeah. Like Harbor Blue and Nocturno. These are some of our blends that have really begun to be our signature colors. Yeah.
Do you have any personal favorites?
Colors, just one. Let's see, I love the Yin Min, I have to say, because I feel like it really represents our vision, because it's an innovative new blue, but it's also not cobalt. And so in my practice, Yin Min has really started to replace cobalt, and it's a beautiful, vibrant blue that granulates. And I would say that it's just, yeah, it's a beautiful color. Also, meteorite is a big favorite. This is a special color blended, a brown blended from meteorites found in Morocco. So it's really exciting to touch that and work with that as a raw material. And I would say maybe Harbor Blue too, because it's a mix of an earth pigment and a phthalo blue, which I feel like is also representative of what we're doing, this kind of marriage of historical and contemporary pigments. And not being concerned to mix the two. I feel like the Sinopia palette, for example, is a really amazing companion palette to our signature palette, because in mixing those two, you can kind of knock down those intense signature bright colors that we make, and give them also a little bit of texture or granulation. So I feel like, yeah, those are
maybe you need a new palette then that's going to incorporate both of them.
There's an idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I know that when I was reading the description of how you make the paint, it says that you use rosemary oil.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what that is and why do you incorporate that?
Yeah, the rosemary oil is part of a historic paint making recipe for its antifungal and antibacterial natural properties. So it does have a function. It's also very pleasant smell, and historically also clove oil was used for those antifungal properties. Mm-hmm. But since we're in Umbria and we have rosemary just everywhere, it seemed like the right ingredient for our line of colors.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. I did not know that, and now we all know how important it is too. Do you find that your travels, and I don't know if you even still have time to travel, do you find that your travels influence the paints that you make, and even if you have time to do your own art?
Yeah. Definitely traveling, especially on these trips to sort of explore the archives of manuscript collections, seeing historical works really in libraries where maybe they're not open to the public and things like that. Really, it made an impression on the my sensibility towards color, I would say, and I think that every place also, the earth colors of every place has their creates the architecture too. You can start seeing it everywhere. So traveling to these places, you realize that those colors are not just, in painters' palettes.
Right.
Those colors are parts of places. And so, yeah, having the privilege to study with a miniature master in the Emirates, in those experiences while traveling definitely informed everything that we bring to the recipes and to the palettes that we build, that are really based in the history of painting. So history of painting is always brought back into the inspiration of what goes into our palettes. And so going to find those places, the living history in different places around the world really is special. I would love to make a trip to Australia, for example, and see some of the Australian earth pigments there, or to the west coast or of the US. There's so many things to do still. And as for my own work, really the project of making watercolors, my background was in egg tempera, which is a time-consuming, beautiful art of preparation using an egg yolk instead of gum arabic as a binder. And so it's also a technique that should be done on a rigid surface. So you have to prepare also the rigid surface and remake that paint fresh frequently. And so the watercolor really in my own practice allowed me to be more prolific and loose in my painting style and production, because I could work on paper. I didn't have to remake the paint, although I could get that vivid quality still. And so now I have plenty of paint to work with. And it's a pleasure to share that with others.
So how many are you looking to expand the number of colors that you have in the line already?
We are looking actually we have about 6 more colors that we are going to release in the near future, that we feel will round out. I'll probably think of 6 more after that, but for now, that really, we feel like there's a couple holes: a neutral tint, a pyro orange. There's a few colors of turquoise, ultramarine. There's a few colors that I feel there's holes in our range, but then I feel we've built a pretty wide range of colors. And our next project will be tubes. We're going to be moving to make 30 colors in tubes, in 10 ml tubes as well. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to it.
Yeah, that way people can paint larger. You can, pour your own little pans. And
Sure.
I feel like professional artists are often looking not just for half pans and a palette, but to use tubes. So yeah, I think we'll be focusing mostly on single pigment colors, because then you can mix your own, and some of the more unusual colors that we offer that maybe are harder to find in other lines of paint. So we'll start there.
That sounds great. I know we are very limited on our time today. And you know what? I think you answered many of the questions that I had. I'm sure you answered many of the questions that anyone tuning in had. And for those of you that are just joining, and I'm sure a lot of you have been joining us for a while, my name is Jackie Gortzman, and I'm speaking to Alina Gallo from Gallo Watercolors in Assisi, Italy. I mean, time difference is just so great that we've been able to connect. I just wanted to say, if anybody had any questions that they wanted to ask, I would just say that if you can send them to us, and we can post them and talk to Alina and send it out afterward, after the chat. And if you are in Canada or in the United States, we are shipping her paints all across North America now. So it's very exciting for us to be connecting with her verbally now, and also having the tubes here. For those of you that haven't seen them, I did, want to show a couple of the sets, because they just are so beautiful, and just finding out about the process and everything else has just been absolutely amazing. So Thank you, Alina.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun, and I look forward to seeing any other questions that pop up, and we'll be in touch.
And maybe we'll do this again.
That would be fun. We should.
Great, great. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Jackie
everyone who
G
joined
from
us.
Gortman's. And thank you, Alina.
Thanks a lot.
All right, bye-bye.